Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And I'm always interviewing entrepreneurs, thought leaders, people influencing the creative landscape. So today we have Rachel, and her mantra is the difference between alive and living. And we're going to be talking all about wellness, burnout. That's kind of the buzz term today, but Rachel comes at it from a different slant, which is why I introduced her. So without much ado, welcome Rachel to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm excited to dig into some of the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah, I know, especially mental health, burnout, work-life balance, trauma, healing. These are kind of the buzz terms. And tell us more about your story, how you got into the space, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think, and I don't know to the degree that you can relate to this, but so many of the people that I meet that are kind of in the care world, they got in it to quote fix themselves first, right? From the research side, there's the joke of me search rather than research, right? I think I have this problem. I wonder if I'm alone, and we start kind of digging into it. And then from that applied side, it's like, where's the answer? Why am I having so many problems? Like, why can't I figure this out? And so that's really what started it. Was I had struggled with my weight for a really long time. So many people start to realize, whether you work in this space or you're suffering, you're dealing with weight issues, you realize it's not always about the weight, and that's usually not, it's like kind of the symptom, the visual of the problem. But for a long time, I thought weight was just the issue. And that was very, at a very young age. Fast forward, as I did finally start to get a handle on my weight, I realized, it's also this. It's everything. And as I just kind of tried to become the expert to quote fix myself, because I couldn't find the resources that I needed, when I did finally start to be at a place where I felt balanced, healthy, I was excited. I looked in the mirror and I was like, I loved what I saw staring back at me, and life was just grooving. I wanted to be the resource for other people that it took me so long to find. I was talking with someone today. People shouldn't have to become an expert in exercise physiology, dietetic, all of the things to just live a happy, healthy, fulfilling life. That's what we're here for, the experts in the field. And so I really wanted to go out and become one of those experts in the field, so that I could help people get on the path to just really living life on their terms.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so, I mean, what's really interesting is you've talking to you, it seems like, this struggle, everybody's on this hamster wheel. We're trying to, we want accolades, we want the likes, the follows.
Yeah.
And then you talked about, you've gone through it all: burnout, quit, quarter life, all these, and everybody's suffering from this, like, did everything right. And is workplace wellness worth the hype?
Oh, we're jumping in deep right away. It depends, right? So yes, if done well. The problem is that it's often not being done well, or the metrics that organizations are using are not the best metrics, right? So what we're finding, and also, like, people need to just understand that things are new. Right. And science is always meant to evolve. And so I think that's one of the issues, is we just, like, in general, the population, it's hard to we're not trained to think like scientists and accept that there's not a hard and fast for everything, black and white. So what we're finding right now so far is that the original idea was health and wellness, like in the workplace. It's going to help reduce healthcare costs. So we're going to measure healthcare costs. And there was some evidence for that, but mostly there's just too many variables, right? Like you can't control if if your employees are going to drink or eat X, Y, and Z and not move and be stressed out, and that affects weight and that affects health. And then you have issues with you can't mandate that they do certain biometric screenings. And so it's a hard thing to measure. And then really say that this is definitively causing, the reduction or the increase. But what you can find, and what we are finding, is that done well, workplace wellness or workplace well-being is really kind of what it's called. Workplace well-being program, when effective, can improve customer service or client service, depending on the nature of your industry. It can improve engagement. So employee engagement is a big thing that people are looking at right now. And it can improve turnover. So, whether you're measuring it as turnover or retention, it basically buys into that kind of happy, healthy worker theory, right? So in general, not everybody, but in general, if you are happy at work, if you are confident in your work and your workplace, you're going to do better work. And that translates into a better organization.
Yeah, I love that. In speaking to a lot of people on, burnout and wellness, it's not just like, from what I've gathered, it's something deeper. It can be trauma, it can be addiction, can be overworking. So you have a very interesting slant about boundaries and burnout. And so what's the relationship between boundaries and burnout?
Yeah, so burnout is a workplace phenomenon. It occurs when you are experiencing three things simultaneously: lack of confidence, or lack of self-efficacy, if you want to use the sciencey terms, exhaustion, and cynicism. So, it could start with exhaustion and kind of escalate, but essentially it is when you are beyond stressed, like chronic stress to the extreme. You are just, if you had to move off the couch, like that, just the thought of that, literally or figuratively, is too much. So feeling just this immense exhaustion, feeling cynical about the job, like this place is stupid, I don't want to be here anymore, that kind of attitude, even if you used to love it, or just not finding joy in other things. So your burnout with work could be affecting, you don't want to work out anymore, and you usually love to do that, right? So you just start to feel a little bit more cynical. And then lack of confidence, lack of self-efficacy, like, I don't even know why I'm here, I suck at this. Those types of things. So when you experience all three of those for an extended period of time, that is the definition of burnout. We use it kind of in the street, like, oh, I'm so anxious. I'm like anxious. I have OCD. We don't necessarily mean we have actual anxiety and OCD. So the word gets thrown around a lot, but there actually is a definition to what burnout is. Regardless of if we're talking, quote, legit, true burnout, or just like, oh, so burned out, boundaries are a huge thing. If you don't have boundaries, you will get burned out in whatever way you're using that word, right? Boundaries so it starts with having self-awareness and being able to communicate that. And I often talk with my clients, there's a difference between knowing and setting boundaries and actually enforcing them. Right? So you have to know what they are for you. Start, take the initiative to set them, and then continue to enforce them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a way of protecting your time, your energy, your space, your needs, so that you don't get burned out.
Yeah. It's interesting because, and how do, a lot of people, especially doctors, they're not really good with boundaries, especially with time, and they're really sick of their 9 to 5. They want to be entrepreneurs. How do they set boundaries just in their workplace, personal life, as well as if they're going into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think, and I would love to hear a little bit more from you too. Because there's different types of doctors, right? So, and I'm not talking about the PhD people, which is what I would be, but will be, to be clear. I wouldn't want to take that term before I fully finish. But are you in shift work? Are you working in emergency medicine? Are you a family physician? Are you ear, nose, and throat? Like, everybody's kind of experience as that doctor, it does depend. but the demands are high, right? And we know this, people are dropping out, to your point, and they're looking for ways. I mean, I love that you focus on kind of financial well-being, and that's so huge. I think the biggest thing, especially if doctor or really any business professional is doing something on the side alongside their full-time, they need to be aware, it's doable. You just need to be aware of kind of what we call role conflict or role stress, which is what it sounds like, right? When you're wearing multiple hats and they're kind of conflicting, especially if you're like, oh, I feel guilty when I'm here because I should be here, and I feel guilty here and I never sleep, and burning the candle at both ends and all the things. That's when it's really not going to be very helpful for you. Mm-hmm. But if you can find a way to integrate them synergistically, then it can. What researchers are finding is that side hustle, that side thing, can actually boost what we call your resources. It can be a benefit to your primary job, not a detriment to it. So I think for that, if somebody is looking for something on the side and they want to, make sure that it fills their soul, feeds their life, and doesn't take away from it, they should be mindful of, what should I pick that's going to integrate with my lifestyle in a way that supports it, not just what is the hot new thing,
Yeah. And this brings me to the next question is, ultimately in life, it's kind of like quality of life. And then, but we get mixed up because we think, we have to, basically a means to an end, and, we get into this workplace hustle and workaholic. So what's the most important goal? Is it happiness? Is it freedom? Is it well-being? You talk about why happiness is not the most important goal.
Yes, I love that you asked this question. And I will, my disclaimer is I'm not like anti-happiness at all. Happiness is great, but it's not the only thing. And I'm taking this from a lot of work by Dr. Carol Riff. If anybody wants to look at it, her last name is Ryff. I will not nerd out on you. Feel free to cut me off. It's related to what my dissertation is in, but there's essentially the nuts and bolts of it, that there's two types of well-being. And there's what we call hedonic, which, if you've heard of the word hedonism, right? So it's happiness, it's life satisfaction, it's pleasure. And then there's psychological well-being, or eudaimonic. And I'm not, this actually is kind of important to answer your question, is to just tell you about these two things, because often we hear about, we need to be happy, we need to find more pleasure, and we do. But sometimes you need to do the hard things that feel uncomfortable to grow. And that's not going to make you happy. And it may not bring you pleasure, right? Sometimes the ice cream might bring you pleasure, but is it going to be helpful for you to nourish yourself and grow and hit your goals to be a better, maybe in that moment, yes, but maybe not, right? And the ice cream is just low-hanging fruit example. But humans we need autonomy. We need to feel confident. We have an innate need to become our best self, assuming that we have the roof over our head and food in our bodies, and this hierarchy of needs. And so psychological well-being is looking at autonomy. So do you have control over your life? Do you have control over your environment, environmental mastery? Do you have healthy relationships with others? All these other areas that happiness doesn't necessarily cover, or pleasure doesn't necessarily cover. And actually, sometimes they're in conflict. And what the research has found is that psychological well-being has a greater impact on your health, these various biomarkers of health. And so it's not that one is bad and one is good. It's just we need both.
Interesting. So when you talk about, when people are listening to this is a really interesting slant, and they're saying, okay, I'm burnt out, what do I do? Or if you're a business owner, how do you keep employees from burning out? What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, prevention is obviously, no matter what, way better than trying to find a cure and coming back. So to start with prevention, I mean, the biggest thing, you asked me earlier about boundaries, right? I think everything comes down to self-awareness and communication. Right? Communication with yourself and communication with other people. And to communicate, you need to know what you need, who you are, and what you need. and be confident enough to do it. At the organizational level, you really need to create a place that's psychologically safe. I mean, you might be hearing this buzzword a lot too, a psychologically safe workplace, right? Do your people feel like, great, you have a health and wellness program? I mean, a lot of places do, most don't, but let's just say you do. Is anyone using it? They might not be using it because they don't know about it, but they might not be using it because they don't feel like they can. Right? Their managers aren't using it. The senior leaders aren't using it. Nobody else is using it. Their workload is too high. They don't feel like they have time. They feel like they're going to get penalized if they ask the question of, hey, can I leave early this day to go take care of whatever and finish up at home? They might feel like they're going to be punished for that. Right? So is your workplace psychologically safe enough where people can, bring themselves and be honest and speak up about issues and ask for what they need? So that's kind of the first step is creating a psychologically safe workplace. And the American Psychological Association has a number of resources, actually a different APA. American Psychiatric Association's Work Life Unit has a number of resources, as does the CDC's Total Worker Health Program has a number of resources that managers can tap into. People can contact me directly and I can send them the links. It's all available. So it really does start with senior leaders and managers creating a safe space, and then leading by example, words and actions.
Yeah, you've given a lot of good tips and a lot of great insights. As we near the end of the show, I usually like to ask one deep, profound question, and one of it is what's the one thing I should do for happiness, health, and longevity? If there was one thing, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
One, I have to pick one. Move more. If I can really characterize it, I'd say move more outside.
Yeah, movement is it'll change your state, it'll change your physiology, basically, and put you in a more resourceful state. Breathe.
Absolutely.
So
everything. Even a lot of times people think, oh, movement, weight loss. No effect on your weight. It'll make you healthier. Your weight could not even change, and moving more will make you healthier.
Interesting. Yeah. How can people contact you, follow you, check you out, follow your social medias?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, everything is linked at my website, which is, so my last name is right there, or right there, because we're reversed on Zoom. It's Rach Boehm, so RECH, and then BOEHM.com. And then my email is just rach@rachboehm.com.
Yeah.
But all my socials and everything are linked right there, as well as a free burnout prevention checklist.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, let's thank Rachel for coming onto the show, giving these really interesting insights and wisdom and different slants on what burnout is. It's mainstream, and be sure to check out her resources at her website, rachboehm.com, and she's also on all the socials. So check her out there.
Find the one that works for you.
And then she's got a bunch of free resources as well. So thanks so much, and thanks for coming onto the show.
Absolutely. Bye.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.